Good morning, or it's a warm, bright, and sunny day. It is Tuesday, the 26th of March, and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a box to continue unboxing. And what I've got in here is WhiteBox, a fantastic medieval adventure game. So, WhiteBox, fantastic medieval adventure game. Unleash your imagination to dream of other worlds where you roleplay heroic characters, go on adventures just like in the days of old. Slay a dragon. Sometimes even the most reluctant adventurer will hear the call of the wilderness and set out to slay a dragon, or at least steal its treasure. Explore the unknown. There is no limit to the lands you can explore and magic you can discover. Fight on. So grab your sword, mace or wand, and travel beyond the borderlands and brace yourself to face great and terrible monsters. And remember, no matter what happens, fight on. So, this is, just to see the logo from the publisher, is published by Seattle Hill Games. It's an old school Renaissance style or retroclone. Not to say who the author is. Doesn't make it actually clear. Editing in some words, layout and so on, but doesn't state who the author is clearly. But essentially, this is an adaptation, an updating, and so on of basically the style of Dungeons and Dragons and its play to basically a modern layout rather than a modern sensibility, because of course the retro clones are all about old school, or play as it was back in the 70s and early 80s more than anything else. Chapter 1, get started. It basically takes you through the rule number 1, which is essentially that the referee has the right to modify the dice and the rules, and then you've got the picture of the dice themselves, character sheets, attributes, attribute modifiers, that sort of thing, and the scale is essentially 15 to 18. You get the +1, 3 to 6, it's low, so it's not as granulated, say, as you would get with something like basic Dungeons and Dragons, the Beckby version that came out in 1983, designed by Frank Menser. Basic, expert, master, sort of companion, master, immortal, so on. So pretty much what you've got here is standard play, and it really kind of sort of based upon something not the original Dungeons and Dragons, but more like the Dungeons and Dragons, say, of the J.R. Holmes kind of a basic game. So we have next we've got the character classes. So we'll start off with the cleric and advancement, turn on dead table, we move on to the fighter, and we've got a list there of his advancement, the magic user, similarly, and the thief. So you've got the 4 basic classes there of Dungeons and Dragons, and then we have character races, and this is, you've got the dwarf and the elf and the halfling. The halfling only gets half a page. But so essentially what this is doing is treating it's old school in the sense that it's also in the sense that it's treating race as class and class as race. So only humans can be fighters, clerics, wizards, and thieves, and all the actual races are their own classes. We have a section on equipment. And then how to play the game, so things like gaining experience, time, movement, outdoor movement, that sort of thing, secret doors, as you would expect. And a section on combat, it's explaining how initiative works, You've got like an alternative combat sequence there. Roll for surprise, roll for initiative, and so on. And essentially, here's one possibility based upon the original game. So you could. There are optional rules throughout, so that the dungeon master or game master can take this and run it as she and her group wants. So you've got individual attack tables per class. So cleric and thief attack, fighter attacks, magic user attacks, so on. And dealing with things like healing, binding wounds, fighting invisible opponents, use of oil. And this, so just check. If you have a look, so for example, you've got options in here. You do have both ascending and descending armor class. So if you are going descending, you can use THAC 0, which is particularly old school, and it has its own adherents. I played with it a lot, but to be fair, as soon as sort of like ascending armor class came out and was looked at with, say for example, Gamma World 4th edition, they just went, well, that makes sense. I'm already rolling high on a lot of things, like saving throws. For example, we've got the saving throw tables there for the different classes. And it says basically remember that the white box is a free-form game where there aren't a lot of rules. Well, actually, there are actually quite a lot of rules, just not a lot of rules in comparison to a lot of other role-playing games. Before we move on to spells and magic. So we've got the spell list for both clerics and magic users, and when we go into the spell descriptions, they're quite brief. Now, they don't need to be particularly extensive, but I'm going to flip through. Then we move on to running the game. In fact, the spell list is actually quite short. So that's it for spell descriptions. I don't know how many you've got in there, but essentially, let's see, 8. You've got just 8 spells listed for first level a magic user. Just almost as many for first level for the cleric, and even fewer at second level for the cleric. So the spell options aren't extensive. Presumably, they don't really need to be. It depends upon the style and game you're playing, because you can easily tailor in some role-playing games where you sort of like kind of Dungeons and Dragons style role-playing games, you can actually tailor the sort of spells you have at the start according to the world if you wanted to. So anyway, moving on to running the game. So designing an adventure, creating a campaign, experience points and so on, scale of advancement. Essentially, these are introductions to the subject matter. This is just the basics. And then we've got a guide to running both underworld and wilderness adventures. And then tables supporting that here. We've got a table of movement and encounter levels based by dungeon level, and then essentially then wilderness encounter tables by terrain type. We have the monster section. So same thing. Talking about how they break down your different monsters, armor class, attack, experience points, hit dice equivalent, magic resistance, and so all that you would expect in a retroclone. We've got the monster attack table. We move on to the monster description, starting off with Banshee, Basilisk, and Beetle Giant Giant Fire Beetle. And again, here we have what you would expect to be found in the pages of a retroclone. We've got a section on demons, doppelganger, dragons get their own section. Similarly, elementals get their own section, as the Atlantis Cube is there. Giants get their own section. Hobgoblin. Typical humans, various types. We have a visible stalker, the kobold, of course, and the orc. That's the depiction of the orc there. Skeleton, and treant, all the way down to wraith, wyvern, yellow mold, and zombie. Before we move on to how to make tougher monsters, how to create them, section on treasure, and how to create hordes of treasure. Basically, how to bring treasure into the game, how to use it. Section on magic potions. Not an extensive list, but enough. Scrolls. Just lists the typical weapons and things that you would find in a retroclone. We've got miscellaneous magical items, so they include like greater wand of destruction, wings of invisibility, regeneration, human control, spell storing, staves of striking, staves of the snake, staves of wizardry. Much of it which will be familiar to Dungeons and Dragons players from down the years. We have atypical things, so essentially like the bag of holding, boots of elf kind, and so on. Even has its own deck of many things. Section on cursed items, and that's it. That brings it to a close. You've got the house rules space there if you want to add notes to your own copy, and WhiteBox. Essentially the WhiteBox character sheet. There we go. That's done by James US. You can you recognise his style. He has drawn a lot of character sheets over the years. So that's WhiteBox, essentially based upon sort of like the original role-playing game, sort of derived essentially from a mixture of kind of basic and what grew out of the original WhiteBox for Dungeons and Dragons. So another retro clone. The problem, of course, is there are lots of these to choose from, and you can pick and choose and go with one, change to another, and they're all offer the same kind of style of gameplay. Not a lot different. It's really how which one you feel most comfortable with. I think ultimately. So for me, I feel kind of comfortable with Old School Essentials. It just sort of like it's really nice and simply presented, and gives me options. This, basically. I mean, and the other thing I think with this is sort of like how do you review this and not exactly say the same? What does this? What sets this apart from others? And that's the problem you really have. I really have with these things. What's different between them? It's really kind of very, very granulated. There's sort of like a sliver of, essentially cigarette paper or tissue paper between a lot of them. Anyway, that is WhiteBox, fantastic medieval adventure. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you did, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a box containing a game or book, or in this case, a retro clone role-playing game, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.